What's going on, guys? Sean from Hammerhead Garage here. Sunday night, time for another chat. Tonight's topic is going to be one I hope you guys will chime in on. Is Snap-on tools, are they still worth it? What are your guys' recommendations for tools? What are your experiences with Snap-on tools or high quality tools? Um, I've got some things to show you here tonight that might change some of your minds on some of them. This is by no means gospel, guys. This is just my experiences with high quality tools. In any case, I guess it really depends how you're going to use the tools. I work every day using tools, so I try and get ones I can afford, and also get ones that are decent enough quality to get by for what I'm trying to do. I have a fairly large selection of tools that I've acquired over 20 some years. I keep buying them all the time when they go on sale or when I can afford to buy them. I've got a lot of different brands. I'm going to go over some of them tonight and how they've lasted as compared to others, let's say. Now, I don't think you got to go out and spend a whole pile of money on a brand name per se. Snap-on does have its place, okay, as do all the other tool manufacturers, Mac, Matco. I've got all of them, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. But they're not the end-all, be-all of tools. There's even been reports of Snap-on guys going into like trade schools and telling new tradesmen that, listen, unless you have Snap-on tools, you're not going to get a job in the industry. And that's just a bunch of nonsense. If I ever went to a shop and they weren't going to hire me because I didn't have the Snap-on brand or a $10,000 Snap-on toolbox, I'd tell them to pound sand for sure, right? But we'll go over a couple of things. I wish this was a tool review because I'd have some really cool tools to show you. Unfortunately, I can't afford any tools at the moment. I'm still broke from friggin' Christmas. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, are too. But, nice Java. But anyway, we can talk about it. I don't think Snap-on is as good as it used to be, personally. The tools back in the 80s and 90s seem to be better quality, and I guess it's like everything else. Like, you guys have probably heard me talking about snowmobiles and motorcycles and electronics and hot rod parts and cars in general. After like 2008, the quality just went to the shitter because the bean counters got involved and they started making them cheaper and cheaper and charging more. Out of all the tools I've ever bought, Snap-on seems to be probably the most expensive makes to have. I mean, there's other ones that are really expensive too, but I think I've paid more for Snap-on tools than I have for Matco or Mac or any of the other ones. I generally try and buy good used tools if I can find them. Sometimes it's hard to do, but if you can find used tools, that's another option. But to be completely honest, I've used all the brands, including Craftsman, which are pretty decent. Mastercraft, which I've had varying amounts of luck with them. They're the Mastercraft premium brand, which is like the professional tools, don't seem to be too bad. However, I have broke a few of the sockets and I've tried to take them back, and I don't know if they've got a lifetime warranty anymore because I've had trouble taking them back. I took a socket back there last year and I had to go to like 3 stores before I found one that would actually take it and replace it, because they're supposed to replace the tool if it's got a lifetime warranty on it, right? But that's the same for the tool brand truck tools like Matco and Snap-on. And I've also had trouble getting Snap-on tools that are broke. Usually you got to hound the rep forever before he'll do anything for you. That's from out west. Now, I don't know what it's like here in Nova Scotia. I do know who the rep here in Nova Scotia is, or one of the ones that's around me, but I don't know what he's like for takebacks. But I think there's a lot of good options for guys out there. And again, like I said, it all depends on how you use your tools. If you're going to use them every day, you're going to get a lot of use. So you want something that's decent quality. I'll give you an example of that. This is a set of Snap-on needle nose pliers. Okay. They're like your regular needle nose. They've got like serrations on the end here to grip stuff, but they're decent quality. Okay. These ones are, you can tell almost any tool if it's going to be worth a damn, but by the weight of it. These are quite heavy. And I've had these for probably 5 or 6 years, and they get a lot of regular use, and they're decent quality. And I forget what I paid for them. I think it was right around $60 or somewhere in there, but they are decent. So I got to hand it to Snap-on for still making some decent stuff. But the thing of it is, guys, is that there's some tools that are good, and there's some tools that are not so good. Hey, Admiral Sandwich, nice having you on here, man. Are Snap-on tools nice? Yes, very much. Yeah, they are, and I'm not knocking them. But there are other tool brands that are cheaper and will get the job done just as easy or better even. Like I was saying, I don't think the quality is quite as high as it once was with Snap-on. Here's another example. Okay, this is a brand new, like less than a year old, Snap-on 17 millimeter socket, okay, 3/8 drive. I'm going to put it up to the camera and I'm going to show you, and you'll be able to see what's wrong with it. Well, you could see what was wrong with it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, do you see the split? That's a bad one. It goes all the way over. Now, I did this, okay, with a 3/8 drive breaker bar on the end of this, and I wasn't even pulling all that hard, and she went blammo. So I haven't tried to take that one back yet, but I'm going to. So I don't know, guys. I mean, you pay a lot of money when you're a professional mechanic. I mean, it's no joke to say you get 50 grand in tools. I mean, it is, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to acquire them. So when you do break them, you want to get them replaced. I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys are having better luck with some of your sockets and stuff, but I'm finding that a lot of them are breaking. The Snap-on brand ones are breaking. I've even had some friends that were showing me pictures on Facebook and stuff of tools that they've broken recently. Yeah, the qualities are very good for every tool maker these days. Yeah. Well, I don't know if the qualities is like that's what I'm saying. The quantity maybe is good, but the qualities on a lot of things have gone down, in my opinion. And I'm basing that off of using these things all the time. No, Harbor Freight. I got some Harbor Freight stuff, and if it's a tool like for instance, it's a job that you only do every 6 months or something like that. Some of them cheaper brands are very cost effective. I mean, that's the way to go, in my opinion, rather than spending big bucks. But I'll give you an example as a professional mechanic, what some of the Snap-on tools I buy just because I use them a lot. Number one thing that I buy from Snap-on is circlip pliers, snap ring pliers. Because any of you guys that have taken motorcycle engines apart know there's a gazillion snap rings in there. And what happens is you start using these things, and eventually the ends of them, the little round ends that catch that snap ring or circlip, they every time you slip off of it, it goes snap. You're ruining the end of that thing if it's not a good quality one. I found the Snap-on ones, the tips on them they're hardened, so they tend to last a lot longer. And I think the set I have was around $350, but it's got 12 different circlip pliers, including inside and outside ones. You guys know what that is, right? But so there's tools like that. Another thing from Snap-on I like is their torque wrenches. I find them to be really accurate, and they last a long time. Another thing I got from Snap-on that I use a lot are the screwdrivers. And again, it's the same reason as the circlips, because the ends of them, they tend to be hardened. Like anyone that knows, if you take a Phillips screwdriver long enough or a flat and you twist it on something that's high torque, eventually if the metal's of a lower quality on the tip, you're gonna mar it up, you're gonna bust it up. It's not gonna grab as well. So if you get something, another set I like to use for screwdrivers is Matco. They've got a set of these green handled ones. They're from West Germany, and they've got really hard tips on them, and they tend to work real well. Again, they're several $100s. They're expensive. Another tool I use from Snap-on a lot is I've got a set of pry bars. Like I've got a gigantic pry bar, and then I've got like a middle of the range, and then I have a smaller one. I like the Snap-on pry bars. They tend to be pretty good quality. And they've got another little feature I like, which is a little like metal embossment at the end that you can take a hammer and give it a good whack if you need to move it. What's Sandwich saying here? I go a Votech school and we get very good deals on Snap-on tools and they last forever. But I'll say it, most of the Craftsman ratchets, a lot of them have broken. Yeah, you're going to find good ones and bad ones. I haven't had any problems with Craftsman. Maybe some of their new ones aren't quite as good. Again, it's the bean counters, right? Another thing you can do, guys, with your ratchets, and I'm sure Admiral Sandwich, you know this, what I do with mine is I take them about every 6 months and I put them in a bucket and I pour straight gear oil over them and I soak the shit out of them for like 24 hours. And it gets in the little ratchet mechanisms and stuff. And it's just anything that's starting to seize up in there. If you get a little bit of water or something in there, it just lubricates them and it tends to make them last a lot longer. And another secret too, and I know you guys know this, is you don't use a ratchet as a breaker bar. They're not the same tool. A breaker bar is a breaker bar and a ratchet's a ratchet. And if you want your ratchets to last, you'll use a breaker bar to break real stubborn ones free, or air tools, right? But anyway, this here, okay, this is a wrench, obviously. It's from Gray Tools out of Canada. Gray, Gray Tools, Canada. And they are friggin' fantastic. This particular one right here is from the 1970s, the early 70s. This was one of the wrenches I got out of my dad's original set. And it is heavy as hell. You could smash somebody really good with this thing, give them an awful headache. It's a really heavy piece, and I wish I had 100 like it. You know, the Gray stuff seems to be great. I know they still sell Gray tools, but again, I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me if the quality's like that piece is. The weight tells everything, really, most of the time, you know. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, again, it comes down to how you're using them, how often you're using them. Another thing I like to buy that's either Mac or Snap-on is I've got a Mac, not a tap and die set, but a thread chasing set with a good set of thread files. I use that a lot to restore threads because I work on motorcycle engines a lot and they have a lot of steel going into aluminum. So a lot of times the threads get buggered up. So I use them to restore them. I also use Snap-on auto centering or auto snapping center punch. And a lot of you guys know what those are. You basically stick it on there, you push on it like it's like a pen and it goes snap and then returns back. I have a Snap-on one of those that's been really good. And it helps you get that hole just perfect. So when you go to drill a hole in something, or if you're chasing a hole, you can get right in there with it. Yeah, lubricate pliers too. Yeah, that's always a good point. I know I get a bunch of channel lock pliers that they've got rust in the hinges, like you know, like when you try and adjust the size. So if you soak them in the oil, that helps too. It doesn't have to be gear oil. I just use gear oil because lots of times we get a lot of that stuff laying around. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's still perfectly clean. So we give them all a good dunk and take care of them, right? Wipe them all down, blow them out with air. And speaking of air tools, I'll give you a couple other tips. The best air ratchet I currently own is not actually Snap-on or Matco or any of the others. It's actually an Ingersoll Rand 1/2 inch. It's a 1/2 inch Ingersoll Rand, and I call it the Hammer of Thor. Because that sucker, man, she'll break stuff apart like you wouldn't even believe. And the key to keeping good air tools is to lubricate them. I've got some of that Lucas air tool oil, and I dump some of that down inside of them things every day. I lubricate them daily, and it keeps them healthy. It really does. I go forward, and then I go reverse. You guys know the routine. You just pour it in there as you're holding the trigger to get it to go into the tool, and then you run some through there. ATF's great. Yeah, I've used that as well. Sticking some in there to kind of juice up the stuff to get stuff moving again, right? But I mean, tools are expensive, guys. It's going to be a big investment to have a good set of tools. So why not take care of them? I mean, really, for the extra amount of time. And I'll tell you another thing too. If I'm doing a job for a customer, I will bill into the job me actually cleaning up some of my tools and putting them away as part of the bill that the customer pays. I don't stop the clock until my stuff's taken care of and it's put away, because that's part of the job. Okay. And there's some mechanics don't do that, but I've always done that. Okay. Um, but anyway, yeah, Harbor Freight. I've used Princess Auto up here in Canada. I don't know if you guys got that in the States. I've got some Princess Auto tools. And I'll tell you another brand that I've had pretty good luck with, tell you the truth, is Husky. I think Home Depot carries that. There might be some other brands out there or companies out there that carry it, but I've had good luck with Husky tools. My brother Ed gave me a Husky 1/4 inch air ratchet, and I still use that sucker to this day, and it works great. So the great thing about motorcycle stuff is you don't really need like the 3/4 and the 1 inch impact stuff, although I've used that too. The highest torque I've ever put on anything was 1,680 foot-pounds. And what it was an airbag shackle for a Kenworth on the back. And I had to put a torque multiplier. I think it was a 3X or a 4X torque multiplier and a 1 inch ratchet on there, or 1 inch air impact, and really come onto her. And we got her all torqued up. But the motorcycle stuff, 1/4 inch, half, 3/8 is pretty much it. 1/2 inch once in a while. Another tool that I use a lot of, especially for motorcycles, is I use a hammer impact. You guys know what that is. It's a screwdriver, but it's got a bunch of springs inside it and like a Phillips head. And you put that on magnesium or aluminum engine cases. You take a hammer and you give it a bash. And what it does is it torques those really tight bolts loose. Well, again, the tips on them things, they tend to get screwed up because of the abuse of all that torque when it turns. So I like to use a Snapon or a Mac, one of those, because I use it a lot. And once you strip the head of one of them things, it's hard to get it out of there. And I've had to, get in there with an air Dremel and make a flat so I could get a flat screwdriver on the head of the thing once I bunged it up. And that's no fun for nobody. That'll put you in a sour mood for the rest of the day for sure, right? Anyway, using the right tool also helps. Trying to use a 1/4 inch on nuts and bolts that the factory didn't think would ever come off will break them. Yeah, sure as shit it will. There's no question, man. And there's some, like I said, dissimilar metals is the worst thing. Like if you're steel going into aluminum, or basically anything going into aluminum other than other aluminum, they're dissimilar metals. So it's a nightmare sometimes trying to get that stuff out. I find heat is your friend when you're trying to remove a lot of that stuff. I usually hit it with the propane torch for a bit until it gets in the smoke range. You know what I mean? Like the smoke starts to come off it. You don't want to get it too hot because you can do a lot of damage, but I get it in the smoke range, and then I give it 1 or 2 good wraps, and normally I can get the thing out of there. But anyway, yeah, there's good quality and bad quality. The Mastercraft wrenches, the ones that have the auto ratchets, like they're like a ratcheting type wrench, I haven't had good luck with those. I've had 3 or 4 of the 10mm ones where the gears actually, they stripped. Like you can go both ways. Like there's no gear there left anymore. There's nothing to catch. So I've had to return a bunch of them. But I don't use them that often anyway, because the head is so big on them that you can't get them in a lot of tight areas. Like normally where I'm working, my big friggin' gorilla paws are way too big in there. What I really need is like a small Japanese set of hands or something to get in there, because it's so friggin' tight in there. You know what I'm saying? So, it's hard to get in on some of them fasteners. And I find that the heads on those ratcheting type wrenches are too big to fit in there. Yeah, especially with Snap-on, because they have the buttons that move the heads. So yeah, so if it bolts up tight, those bits break, and then the heads flip around. Yeah, and that's when things get really interesting. But I will tell you a tip, guys. Okay, if you ever get a bolt, a stubborn bolt or stud that won't come out of something, here's what you do. Try this. Heat it up with a torch, and then go and get yourself some pure 100% beeswax. Okay? and take the beeswax and melt it all the way around the bolt really well. Melt it right, shove it right in there, melt it in there, and then let her harden up. And you'll be surprised how many bolts I've gotten out doing that without breaking them off, right? Because then when you break them off, if you don't break them off flush and they're down the hole, then you got to get a center punch, and then you got to get a left-handed drill bit in there. And then you got to, sometimes if that don't work, you got to go to the bolt extractors, either the spiral flute remover or the other type extractor tools. And if you break a hardened extractor off inside of aluminum case, mister, you got troubles, because that's a hard one to fix. And I know some of you guys are probably laughing out there in internet land right now because you've had to do that yourself. But anyway, try the beeswax trick. That will work for you some of the time, right? But yeah, a lot of times too, where you can find good tools for not a lot of money. If you got like a flea market or a garage sale around where you live, I found good tools doing that. Like, let's say the family was selling off their dad's tools that just died or something, and you can pick up deals on tools, good quality tools, a lot of them. I found some like wrenches from the 70s. I'm kind of like an antique wrench fiend. I kind of collect antique wrenches. I found some really cool cycle wrenches from the 70s, high quality stuff for almost nothing, right? And you can pick up some good tools that way as well. But anyway, I don't know. I used to buy tools off the tool truck, but it just gets so bloody expensive, boys. I mean, really, do you need a $10,000 Snap-on toolbox to work? I mean, I don't. You know, I've got a couple of good boxes there, but they're all I need, and they're not Snap-on. When I started out west working on motorcycles, the Snap-on rep came down one day and he was like, "Oh, we got you all set up in an account here, Sean, and we got a $8,000 toolbox." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold the presses, boys." I said, I don't need any $8,000 Snap-on toolbox. Thank you very much. I said, what I really need is the $8,000 worth of tools to go in it, which was in Snap-on terms is a socket set and a couple wrenches and a screwdriver. But anyway, no, I mean, get them where you can get them. They don't have to be brand name, guys. I'm just showing you this stuff, like the broken sockets and stuff, just to show you that even the best ones will break, you know. And I wasn't abusing this. This was not on an impact gun or anything like that. And she just came apart, right? So I don't know. I'm leery. I'm very leery of anything anymore. The quality, like I said, once the bean counters get involved, the quality just goes to shit, right? But in any case, share with me here, guys, some of your breaks and some of your experiences with tools. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, WD-40 Admiral Sandwich says, and speaking of rust breaking lubricants, I'm seriously not a fan. WD-40 has its place. It's more of a water disperser than it is a lubricant, really. It has its places, but if I have any serious amount of penetrating I need to do where I need to get a bolt or a screw loose, I generally I go to PB Blaster. That's the one I generally use. Seafoam has another one called Deep Creep, and it's pretty decent as well. I've used it to get some really rusted stuff out. Yeah, I'll use WD-40 to spray tools down if they were out in the rain. If I was out in the garage or out in the driveway and I was working on something like doing a brake job and it started to rain and all my tools got wet, I take them into the shop, I dry them off with air, and then I shoot them with WD-40 just to get the remnants of the water and stuff off them. But yeah, PB in my opinion is a far superior lubricant. You know, obviously not for stuff like lock mechanisms or, you know, things like that. You should be using graphite spray or something to that effect on those. But it does have its place. Yeah, I mean, you can use it for a lot of different things, right? But yeah, the main thing is you just got to take care of what you do have. Don't believe all the hype from the guys that are trying to say, oh, well, if you don't have the Snap-on stuff, you're not a real pro. Well, that's just a bunch of nonsense. That's just designed to sell tools. Okay, really. I know lots of guys that don't even have tools that, you know, like from like Harbor Freight, they're even worse than that. And they do incredible work. So I mean, you should be proud of your tool collection, of course, and take care of it. But they don't all have to be Snap-on, and they don't all have to be Mac or Matco or any of the brand name ones. You can get by with a lot of other stuff that you find that's decent quality. Like I said, if I could find some of these old gray wrenches like this of this quality, I mean, I'd scoop them up in a heartbeat if I could find a bunch of old ones from the 70s and 80s, because it's just real metal. Like there's no alloys or any of that in here. It's the real McCoy, right? And this is like it's the 70s, so it's like 40 some years old. It's withstood the test of time, and I still use it. So I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. I don't know, maybe some of you guys get different opinions. That's cool. We're all in here to learn from each other. That's the whole purpose of this channel. So some of you might have witnessed my little breakdown the other day. I had a bit of a rant video on there, but hey, listen, guys, I'm just like you. I'm just an average dude. I have my good days. I have my bad days. Some days I get angry, and I know you guys do too. So, I mean, I'm just trying to show you the real me, right? And some of you might take offense. I hope you don't, because it's not, none of that malice is meant towards you guys. I mean, if I didn't like this, I wouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Nobody's holding a gun to my head and saying, you got to do this, right? So, but anyway, I mean, it is what it is, right? Yeah, I don't like that feeling that the WD-40 puts on your hands either. C clamps, yeah, that's a great, that's a whole other topic. I've never seen a C clamp lately. Maybe you have, Admiral, that isn't made in China. That's, not completely horrible. Maybe you can still buy decent ones. I don't know, but I use them for all kinds of things, as I'm sure you do. I use them to remove, to push brake pistons back in calipers to do when I'm doing brake jobs, and I use them for holding things. That's really what they're for, is for holding stuff in place. And not China. Well, yeah, if you could find some decent ones, and I'm not saying everything from China is bad. It's obviously not, but there are some things that are like woefully, horribly bad from there. And it just seems that maybe they forgot a step in the over hardened, the metals that they use to make the tools. Like it didn't get the right heat treatment or the right hardening. It became too brittle, or the quality of the ore or the steel itself is not up to par. But I mean, don't believe this thing too, that like everything made in the USA is better. That's a load of horse shit as well. Okay. Because a lot of the times it's not even made in the USA anymore. It's assembled in the USA. And that's not the same, right? It's not the same thing. You're getting stuff that's coming from Taiwan or some other country, and it's being assembled in the USA, right? But anyway, yeah. So he said, even on brake pistons, that's one of the reasons I got one of the ratcheting brake depressors. Yeah, they're the answer. I think the one I got, Sandwich, is, the one that you stick in behind the caliper, and it's got a dial on it, and you twist it and it actually moves that piece of steel out. That's the one I use. And it tends to work for just about everything. I do have a special one though we have a Honda Accord, and Honda's got a different type of a deal where you don't just push the piston in, you actually have to spin it in, and it's got like a Rubik's Cube kind of thing. And there's a special tool that goes on the end, and you'd ratchet it, and it actually screws the piston into the bore so that you can put a new set of pads on it. I just replaced brake pads and rotors on the front of the Accord, and I used genuine Honda parts. It was pretty expensive. I think about $350. But anyway, they tend to last about 10 times longer than the jobber stuff. So that's why I use the Honda stuff on a Honda. What's he saying here? I was also trying to get universal joints out of the drive shaft one day, and all the C-clamp snapped in half. Yeah, that can be another problem. When I get U-joints out of a drive shaft, I normally just I put them in a vise, and then I put a socket to catch them, and then I bang them through with usually a piston wrist pin or something. Being careful not to warp or bend the drive shaft or anything, because I've heard tell of that happening too. Guys get aggressive trying to remove those, and the next thing you know, they get a nice old warp in the drive shaft. Especially some of them older ones, those older cars that have you have no vise. Well, go to friggin' Harbor Freight, my man. Get yourself a vise. I think the one I got is like an 8 inch, and it's a Power Fist from Princess Auto. It was like $200, and I use it for just about everything. But and it's got a nice little anvil on the back of it too. So if I want to heat something up and beat something, I get an anvil at the back of it in order to do it. But yeah, so let me know in the comments what kind of breakages you guys are seeing. I've been hearing from a bunch of friends that some of the tool brand, the truck brand tools are breaking now. Some of the Snap-on stuff, the sockets, the wrenches. I've seen a lot of breakages lately, more than normal. Because I remember the quality of some of them. Like my brother Ed's got a bunch of them Snap-on tools from the 80s and 90s, some of the old style ones, and they're heavy as lead. I mean, you pick one of them things up and it's got a lot of weight on it. It's quality, you can tell, right? But the new ones don't seem to be quite as good. Yeah, the hammer is the universal mechanics tool, isn't it, man? And it's funny you mentioned that because most of the hammers I got are from the 80s. They're the great big heavy steel body hammers with the long wooden handle that's impregnated with grease and everything else. And those are the ones I'm still using. I haven't even managed to break them. And I've got one, I think it's a 3-pound maul. It's like a handheld maul. It looks like a Thor hammer. And it's really great for knocking stuff that you really got to move out of the way for getting in there. But I've broken some tools too that shouldn't have broke. Like I broke a 1/2 inch breaker bar one time, right at the top of it. I snapped it off, actually snapped right in half. And I didn't even have a cheater bar on it. I wasn't abusing the tool. I was just putting a lot of grunt on it. I think I was taking an axle nut out or a stub axle bolt off or nut off. And she broke. And man, when she broke, I almost went through the damn pavement because I went with it. Wherever it goes, you go. That's why I always try and push a wrench. I never, when if I have to get torque on it, I push it. I don't like put my knuckles like that because you learn. You guys know what I'm talking about, hey, mechanics here. You learn when they slip off, your hands tend to go in places they shouldn't be. And, next thing the blood's flying and then the curse words start and it gets serious from there. But electrical tape is your friend. It's the instant Band-Aid it's like the universal Band-Aid for mechanics. And I like 3M tape. That's my favorite Band-Aid tape is the 3M brand. It tends to stop the blood quicker and you can wrap a t-shirt around it really fast. So that tends to be my favorite. But in any case, yeah. So anyway, I'm just wondering what your guys' thoughts are on tool selection. Are there any new tools out there, new tool manufacturers that I don't know about that are making good quality tools? The problem, like another problem with Snap-on is the price. I mean, it's just, geez, man, it's an awful lot of money. And I don't think it's coming down any. If anything, it's probably going up. It's a lot of bucks, boys. I mean, if you're spending like, shit, I think I got a couple of Snap-on 3/8 ratchets that they were used in the used bin on the truck, and they're $80, but they've been good. They've been rock solid. But I don't know. There's got to be a better, cheaper option. I mean, it's 2020 after all, right? There's got to be something out there that's as good for a lot less money. But again, don't believe the hype. Do your research. Just because it's a brand name doesn't mean it's better. It's kind of like motorcycles. What's on the tank, whatever manufacturer is written on the tank doesn't matter. It's why you ride and that you ride that matters to me, right? What are your reasons for being on two wheels? And the same with hot rods and stuff too, right? They're all good. They're all good engines, right? But anyway, yeah, the warranty's supposed to be lifetime. But like I said, Sandwich, I've had problems where the tool truck operator for Snap-on would run and hide in a sewer if he thought he had to get away from you when you're coming with broken tools. You can almost see you from across a football field coming towards them with broken stuff trying to get warranty. And, they break too, right? So, I mean, a warranty is only as good as the man behind it, right? So, I mean, you can have the most awesome warranty in the world, but if the dude that's actually figuring out what to do and actually handing out the new tools isn't legit or isn't about honoring it, it's no good. It's just on paper only. But anyway, that's just some of my thoughts on it. Peace out, guys. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. I appreciate it. I read all the comments. I get back to everybody, which is pretty easy on my channel because I don't get tons, but I do get some. And let me know what kind of stuff you want to see. Like I said, I'm doing what we can here during the winter months to keep you guys entertained. Like I said, I haven't made it down to the machine shop yet, but that's in the works. The engine machine shop. I remember I was telling you guys I was going to sneak a camera in there. I still plan on doing that. So anyway, peace out. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you guys real soon. I'm going to go check out a couple of my favorite streamers now. Okay, cool. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate all of you.